Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Nona Sports Show. I am your host and producer, Edgar Rodriguez. Pleased that you have decided to join us once again. So, what will this episode consist of? First, we will be talking to one of the stars of our USL2 season this past summer. Next, we will talk European soccer, MLS playoffs, and local UCF soccer. And finally, we'll look back at the weekend's results from our various Nona Soccer Academy games. So, without further ado, let me introduce who I have alongside me for this second episode. He was my co-commentator for the last two USL2 games, so you'll know his voice from that, I think, iconic Brave celebration. He's none other than Patrick DeLeon. Patrick, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to get this underway and talk some... It's never too early to talk soccer.
That's right. We're recording this Monday morning, so, we're up bright and early. So, as I said, this first segment is going to be about a particular midfielder we were able to see firsthand in USL2 this past season. It's none other than Ivan Agyaakwah. I know you were only with us for the last two games, Patrick, but I know he left an impression on you.
Absolutely, and especially after seeing the interview he did with you, he just leaves such a good impression. He looks like such a wonderful person. I mean, also, his ability on the field, it's very noticeable that he's talented, and the way he controls the midfield, his presence, you feel it. He controls the tempo when needed. He lays back a little bit deeper in the sixth area,
right.
But the way his presence on the field, you can just feel the aura.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, let's head into the interview I had with Ivan Agyaakwah. Enjoy it. All right, everyone, I am back, and joining me now for this Zoom interview is Ivan Agyaakwah. Of course, you guys will know him from the USL2 season this past summer. Ivan, great to see you, although virtually. How have you been, my man?
I've been great. I'm missing Orlando, obviously. It's a great summer, great people, great coaching staff, but I'm doing well. I'm at Furman right now in the middle of my season, so can't complain. Soccer's good, school's hard but good, but I'm feeling good, and yeah, it's obviously a pleasure to be here and join you right now in this interview.
Absolutely. I'm glad we were able to find some time to do this. I know it was a last second thing, so I appreciate you joining me. But first, I have to start with congratulating you for the National Team of the Week recognition you just got. Give us a little insight as, how have you been feeling mentally and physically so far this season? Of course, this is a high point for you, so just kind of give us a little insight there.
Yeah, I'd point back to having a summer at Nona just because I haven't done the USL2 before in my last few summers, and it was the first time I did it, and I think it prepared me mentally and physically to go into games a little bit sharper than the guys that didn't play, going in ready and like pushing myself because I'd already played 13 or 14 90-minute games during the summer. So coming into the season, I was already match fit, ready to go, and I'm just happy that after a few weeks in the season, it's paid off and I've been able to get some recognition on a national scale.
I'm sure that was a great moment for you as well. You're in your senior season, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're enjoying your last college games. So that must be an incredible kind of cherry on top, right? But I like how you touched on Nona FC because that is where I wanted to take this. Of course, you were joined by FGCU's Alan Dre in the midfield for most of the season. Both of you are captains at your respective universities. Just talk about how the summer helped you professionally. How did it help you develop as a professional footballer, which is, of course, what you aspire to be?
Yeah, so you touched on it a bit. Like Coach Dave Jacobs did a great job of recruiting an all-star team, I'd call it, because it was captains from their respectable programs. You mentioned Alon, who was my captain this summer, my partner in the midfield, now one of my best friends. So that whole experience with him teaching me how to lead in ways that I hadn't seen before, and us just working together allowed me to see his standard, how he went about his gym program, using LMPC, and not just him, other guys on the team as well, who held themselves to a high standard. And obviously me and my co-captains here, Slade and Kraus, we all hold ourselves to a high standard, and being part of that all-star team really allowed us to all hold ourselves to a high standard, which in the end gave us the success we did, And that's, I think, how me seeing that if everyone applies themselves to their own process and their high standard, you will achieve high things. And that's just how it goes.
Absolutely. And it's like we're on the same page because I wanted to talk about Slade and Christian as well. Of course, you guys came down to Orlando last summer, all from Furman. Talk
Mhm.
to me a little bit about how the whole Nona FC project came about. Like, who contacted you first? Did you guys talk about it, agree on it? Give us a little insight, a little behind the scenes.
Okay, so Slade played with Coach Jacobs the summer before in Dallas.
Right.
Obviously, some of the Nona fans will remember playing against Texas United, I believe they're called, in the
Yes.
playoffs and losing to Texas United. And that's, I think, part of how Dave Jacobs ended up getting the job at Nona. And so then after that all happened, Coach Jacobs reached out to Slade and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Orlando this summer to play to coach a team, Nona FC." And funny enough, a couple of weeks before that, we was discussing Slade and Kraus about where we want to go, what we want to do. Should we go back to Texas United? But we want to be in the sun and enjoy the beaches down in Florida. So what do we want to do? Which one's best? And then like the best of both worlds just came our way. The coach from Texas United is now moving to a team in Florida, and a team that achieves so much, has done well, makes the playoffs, and is growing. And we said, wow, this is the perfect orchestration of everything got in one. So I spoke to coach, Kraus spoke to coach, and it was a perfect fit, and we ended up at Nona FC.
That's unbelievable. Some things are meant to be, right? And I think Nona
Yeah,
FC this summer
yeah.
absolutely was. You guys took the club to a third successive playoff appearance, which was unbelievable, right? Yes, we fell short. Um, when we went to the Carolinas, but the whole regular season was one to remember. Absolutely. Of course, for Nona, you were able to experience the rodeo derby, of course, against Brave SC. So I want to ask, what's the equivalent for Furman, right, in terms of rivalry in soccer?
So I would say it's the derby against Wofford. They're
Oh,
about 40 minutes away. Um, Similar schools, small private schools. Say it's one
right.
of the biggest derbies. And on that note, we just took care of business against them yesterday.
There you
Two
go.
days ago, 2 days ago, we beat them 2-0 at home. So that derby, the same way we beat Brave, we did the job against them. So it's good
Lovely.
times.
I wanted to follow up on that. Did the intensity of the Nona Brave rivalry surprise you at all? I know, of course, Nona and Brave are the standard, right, in the Southeast Division in USL 2. So, how was that experience for you? Of course, home and away, uh, going to the villages, having that experience, of course, of losing our only regular season game there, but then having the mental, strength to come back, that last minute goal. Of course, your famous picture celebrating the goal afterwards. Talk to me about the intensity of the rodeo derby and how it made you feel.
Yeah, I'd say we spoke briefly before the first game, if you remember. We had a little interview before the
Yes,
first
we
game.
did. Absolutely.
It was a feeling of like, oh, this is kind of obviously I'm not familiar with it, and you kind of tried to give me an example of how it equates to something for me back home in England. And so I'd say maybe the first game, a lot of the guys, international guys, I could go as far as say we took it a bit for granted as how the intensity could be. We came into that game just walking through everybody else. Let's be honest, we were just walking past teams,
That's
and
right.
I think we kind of got shocked by the actual intensity and how much it meant to the Brave fans, the Brave community, and the team at Brave. And so I think it was a good lesson because we went there and lost 3-0, I believe. And
It
so it was a
was.
good lesson. It was a good lesson to then wait a minute, we're not champions yet. Wait a minute, we haven't achieved nothing yet. Let's look ourselves in the mirror, go back to work, and when they come back here, we'll take care of business. And that's exactly what we did.
Absolutely. It was
But the highlight of that game, let's not
yeah.
forget the celebration from the commentator box.
Which so I edited in the first episode. If you want to go watch it, actually, let's plug the first episode of the Nona Sports Show. Why don't we? Of course, we're in the second episode. Thank you for joining me once again. But yeah, we'll add it into this episode now. All is the option. Edge of the box. Barkley feeds it in. Back post. The chances there, Kraus. A free fall. It's in.
It's in! A late goal from a free fall!
It's in from a free fall. And Nona steal it at the end. An unbelievable celebration. Just the whole team afterwards. The vibes were so high, right? But I think I know your answer to this question. I think we've touched on it. But is there a moment that you look most fondly back on in terms of the summer?
Mm. I'd say football wise, it's definitely that moment.
Yeah, it
That
has to be.
feeling, that feeling was, even though I was not involved in the goal and I didn't score the goal, just the feeling of beating the team who had beat us before and knowing that with that win, we were in the driving seat to potentially win the regular season and also to make the playoffs. The picture speaks for itself, you know. The picture speaks for itself. The famous, the not famous, the picture of me just with my hands up and that
Hall of
feeling.
Famous. It's legendary, Ivan. Don't try to hide it.
Yeah, I think that speaks for itself on my emotions in that moment, and I was just happy to be a part of it, you know.
Absolutely, the grueling 90 minutes, right? And to have that be the last play, not just of the game, but of our regular season, unbelievable. And at home,
Yeah.
it could not have been scripted any better, right? Um, so let's look forward, right? What's next for Ivan Agyaakwah? What do you see after Furman? Do you have a set objective? Do you have a goal? Do you want to Are you planning on pursuing a professional football career? What's next for you?
So the number one goal is part of why I came to Nona in the first place, to be part of a professional environment. I saw it and see it as a professional environment, to be around players who, honestly, 90% of the players, 95% of the players who were at Nona with me this summer have the ability to be professionals, and I saw it as a professional environment, and that is my number one goal going into when I graduate this Christmas, which is coming up here in a month and a half, is to play professionally, do what I love, find my way and path, wherever that may be, if that's going back home or if it's staying in the States, because I see American soccer growing so much and the standard getting higher and higher and better and better. So uh, that is my goal, to play professionally, however that may come about. We don't know what God's plans are, but that's where I see myself.
Absolutely. And I think you have all the attributes that are necessary to reach that level. I think you touched on it. U.S. soccer's incredible, right? We have the Club World Cup next year. We
Mhm.
had Copa America just
Mhm.
also recently. And then we have the World Cup coming in 2026. So it really is
Yeah.
an upward trajectory that it is following. But lastly, let's leave this on a positive note. What piece of advice would the Ivan Agyaakwah of today give to the little Ivan of 10, 15 years ago? What would you tell him? And what would you tell all of the Nona Soccer Academy kids and everyone watching us right now?
Mm. If you're talented, remain humble, because it's your humility and your hard work that's going to carry you through the hard patches. Because football is a thing of highs and lows. You might be good enough, but you're going to have your highs and lows, injuries and rejection and being told you're not good enough, even though you know in yourself you are. So in your highs and lows, remain humble, keep working hard and believe in yourself. I know those are cliche, but for me, number one is remaining humble through your highs and your lows, because that gets you through the lows.
Absolutely, my man. Inspiring stuff. Thank you as always, Ivan. It was a pleasure catching up with you. And I'm sure we will see each other next time you're here in Orlando. I can't wait for that. But
So
from UCF, I'm Edgar Rodriguez. That was Ivan Agyaakwah. Let's send it back to the studio.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right, so Patrick, a very insightful interview, a very entertaining one as well, because he just gave us so much, so many details that we didn't know previously, right? For example, how him, Slade, and Christian got the Nona move all orchestrated. What impacted you the most from those 11 or so minutes?
Well, the way he just talked about himself and his teammates and his coaches, it really shows the kind of guy that he is, the kind of character that he is. And just the way he also has that chemistry already with some of the guys on the team from previous endeavors. That's the kind of stuff you want on a team, especially if you want to succeed and be successful. You need your guys to get along and have that great chemistry. And Agyaakwah, he just looks like the guy you would love to be friends with anyway,
Absolutely,
regardless of what you're
absolutely.
doing. So I love the guy
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, no, I can say the same. I can attest to him being a true professional, even at this level, USL 2, which is pretty, rare to see that. These determined guys. I think you could say that for most of the Nona team. This past season, these are all guys who want to make it to the top level, and Ivan is no exception to that. I want to talk about the midfield pairing. You already talked about the good chemistry. Of course, he is the Furman University captain. He was alongside Alondre, who is the FGCU captain. How did you see them be so dominant in that midfield for most of the games, and it ultimately led us to that last-minute win against Brave.
I mean, Alan Dre also, he's a really good stud in the midfield.
Yeah, that's the only way to describe
these are the
it.
kinds of guys that you need on your team if you want to win these games, and that's why they had such a good season last year. Because without them, I would assume that the season doesn't develop as successfully as the way it did. And heading into that final game of the season against Braves, that was just kind of the cherry on top. You know, you could see, basically their entire friendship off the field and their partnership on the field culminated into that one game, and we saw that manifest in the last couple of minutes.
Unbelievable. And we included that famous picture with his arms up after the goal. It was an incredible occasion. He also mentioned that Furman were going to play ETSU, Eastern Tennessee State. What's the importance of that? Well, of course, as we touched on, Furman have Slade, Christian, and Ivan. ETSU is the home of Gabby Ramos, who we saw on the right wing predominantly for Nona this summer. That game has passed, and I can tell you that it finished 1-1. We knew it was going to be a tight battle. It was the top of the SoCon Conference for men's soccer. If there was a winner, that was probably going to be the first seed. Now it goes to the last game, so that was an incredible matchup there. Nona boys, facing each other this time instead of being in the same orange uniform. So that is all the time we have for in this first segment. Stay tuned though, because we're going to take a little tour, Patrick. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to talk MLS and we're going to talk UCF soccer. So don't go anywhere.
Turn your pool into paradise with Migaloo Pool Services. At Migaloo Pool Services, we know that your pool is much more than just a recreational space. Strategically situated to serve Lake Nona, St. Cloud, Kissimmee, and Orlando areas, we specialize in pool cleaning, equipment repairs, and pool remodeling, ensuring that your pool is always spotless and functional. We are proud to serve all Nona Soccer Academy customers with personalized discounts and services that adapt to their needs and schedules. Don't leave your pool on the back burner and get with Migaloo Pool Services today, so you can transform your pool into a true paradise. With Migaloo Pool Services.
Alrighty, we are back. Patrick, you have stayed alongside me, and now we're going to go across the pond to talk about this weekend's action in European football. So, which game caught your eye?
So, a notable game of mine would be West Ham 2, Manchester United 1. Manchester United conceding in the 92nd minute to a penalty to West Ham. And that marks the end of the Ten Hag era. It's over. It's over. So, what are our thoughts on that? What do you think? Do you think it was a good decision for Manchester United?
I think that was a decision they should have taken this past offseason. I feel like even though, yes, okay, he's won 2 trophies. He won the Carabao Cup. He won the FA Cup. That does not cover the fact that Manchester United have been a shadow of what Manchester United should be. I mean, they're sitting 14th in the Premier League. I mean, when did we ever think we would say that about Manchester United, one of the biggest names, not just in England, not just in Europe, in the world? I mean, Manchester United is a brand the size of Real Madrid, the size of FC Barcelona. So you're telling me that they're going to sit 14th, lose away at West Ham, who have been atrocious this season? That's the only way to put it. I mean, I think it was long overdue, and finally, the new owners with Ineos, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, finally taking that initiative. I think it should have been done way before.
And then you also have Ruud van Nistelrooy stepping in as the interim manager for the time being. If he does good enough, we could potentially see him stay as the head coach. But Ten Hag, it's not just on him. It's also the players.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't remember the last time I saw a Manchester United player truly play for the badge.
Yeah.
Everybody has just seemed so lackluster, and they're just there to get paid. That's kind of what it feels like, especially because Manchester United, like you said, they're one of the brands that are synonymous with soccer in general, especially here in the U.S. Like, everybody loves them because at one point they loved Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
So I did, So, it's just, I feel like it's taken a long time, maybe too long to get to this point for Manchester United, and I guess we'll see how the rest of their season turns out.
Very true, and, like you said, my only worry with going with Ruud van Nistelrooy as, interim, maybe permanent, is do they want to go down that road? We saw what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They already tried that. didn't work out. Then they went into Erik ten Hag. Won domestic cups, didn't work out. That's not enough for Manchester United. That will be interesting to see how they do. I'm going to stay in the Premier League for my game. I decided to go with Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2. A very entertaining match, I would say, for you, the neutral. I have my Arsenal inclinations. I'll try to keep my Arsenal hat off as much as possible. But look, a game which I think Mikel Arteta will have said or will have felt Arsenal should have won.
Do you think that this game, because these kinds of games, look back later in the season, near the end of the season in the standings, whether it's 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points, you see how big of a difference, especially against top dogs like Manchester City. You see how close the title races have been in previous years. Do you think this game potentially could have decided the race already for Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester City?
Heading into it, I said, and I told you this, I said, if Arsenal didn't win this match, it's over. It's over, especially if they lost. For a draw, I'm not that drastic. There's still so long in the season to go. There's about 29 matches to go, so it's by no means done. But from what I've seen from Manchester City, what I've seen from Liverpool, Liverpool have won, I think it's 11 out of the first 13 matches in all competitions. That is incredible form. It's never been done before in Liverpool's history. City just find a way to win every game. Even if it's against Southampton, it's 1-0, Haaland, boom. You know he's going to get a goal. You leave with the 3 points. Against Wolves, Stones equalizing or winning it at the end. When you thought Wolves had held them, you never know with City. You always, have that feeling that they will find a way, even if it's not going their way.
It just feels like they're inevitable.
Yeah.
So you just have to do everything you can, if you're not a City, to win your games. Because if you don't win, you already know that letting up those points just decides your season.
Right, and we saw that last season with Arsenal, the 0-0 at Manchester City. At the Etihad, everyone was like, oh, okay, good point at the time. But then at the end of the season, when there was only 2 points at the top of the Premier League, you're like, oh, maybe you should have gone there and tried to win. So it's just that game of 2020 hindsight. But look, Liverpool weren't at their best. They found a way to get the point, and that must be an incredible boost for Arne Slot.
Absolutely, and I'm going to bring up this point here from that match. Arsenal and their third goal that didn't count. There was the referee. The referee blew the whistle. Supposedly. I didn't hear anything on the TV, but I don't know how it was in person. But the referee blew the whistle within the build-up because he saw a foul. Nobody heard it. None of the players heard it. Not even none of the players argued anything at all on the field.
No.
And as a referee, because I have some refereeing experience, something you always look for is body language. That helps make your decisions as well, believe it or not. So, when you look at all these players, not a single person reacted the way they did, as you would when a whistle is blown, right? So, Arsenal score, everybody's celebrating, and the
including me.
And then the referee's signaling it off. And we take a look at the replay, and then you see that I believe it was Rice that jumped over.
Yes, that is
that's
the eventual foul we think he called.
Right, and I believe that's what the referee was signaling anyway. But again, nobody heard a whistle, so I'm neutral, so I kind of believe that Arsenal got robbed there because I do think it's a game that they should have claimed the 3 points from.
Yeah, I think the team will look back on that and say, we should have probably won that, especially at home. But anyway, that's enough Premier League talk. Let's come more locally. Orlando City played their first match in the first round of the playoffs this season against Charlotte FC, 2-0 victory. Patrick DeLeon, you were there in person. You witnessed it. Talk to me a little bit about the atmosphere. How was the stadium? How was Inter and Co?
It's playoff season, so it's always fun time. Of course, it's the first round is best of 3, so we do go down to Charlotte away. Hopefully we can wrap it up by then, so we don't take it to a third game. Less exhaustion on our guys, right? 2-0. It honestly could have been 4 or 5.
That first half, they had 10 shots.
Absolutely, but Christian Klina, the Charlotte FC goalkeeper, he did make some really good saves. So props to him. But Facundo Torres, he's just in stellar form. There's just no stopping him.
I'm actually gonna stop you there because the commentator said when he called the goal, Facundo Torres, one of the most like the most famous goal scorer in Orlando City history.
Yes, he's the leading goal scorer in Orlando City history. He broke that record a few weeks ago, and he's just still adding to that tally with every single game. And it's amazing to see him come to life, especially late in the season. Like second half of the season, I don't know what it is. He just explodes.
Yes.
Again, this season, Orlando City did start off very slow, pretty bad. They were 14th in the Eastern Conference.
At one point
in the middle of the season.
You didn't think they would make the playoffs.
No, I was like, okay, this is the year that we fire Oscar Perea because we're not making the playoffs. And then you see that they finished the 4th in the East, which led to the matchup against Charlotte FC. So, and then Ivan Agyaakwah, his pace just kills the defense.
I wanted to touch on that too. What an assist.
Kills the defense. His assist to Martin Tinojeda for the second goal right in front of the supporters section, the wall. Oh, it was just a thing of beauty. Even my dad, who's kind of judgmental of Ivan Agyaakwah, he's like, oh yeah, he played a stellar game tonight.
Absolutely. And, as you touched on Oscar Perea, 5th consecutive playoff appearance. We should give him his flowers as well. So Orlando City head to Charlotte, 1 up in the series. Let's move on to UCF soccer. Of course, the UCF women failing to make the Big 12 tournament. It was a tough one. It was against Cincinnati, another team that was right on the cusp of making it, maybe not. They fall 2-0 down early to the Bearcats. Goals from Brooke Mulroney and Chloe Netzel. We thought they would cross the line, but at the end of the day, they just gave themselves too much work.
Chloe Netzel, again, she's showing up again when she's needed, and unfortunately wasn't enough this time for our Lady Knights. And it's a bit sad to see in a way because, again, they came back from 2-0 down. They're so close to finding that third goal, but they just couldn't make it work. But again, you had to reflect on the entire season too. Individual mistakes that lead to goals that comes back to haunt you. And their last win that I saw it kind of made me like, okay, they can make it to the postseason. They have that going. They just gotta, it's a team game,
right?
Of course, but I'd have to give Chloe Netzel her flowers because she really had a really good season and a otherwise disappointing overall season for the team.
Don't be surprised if you see Chloe Netzel playing professional football, whether it's in NWSL, whether it's in the new USL Super League that's coming, whether it's in Europe. I think she's a professional player. She was unbelievable for UCF this season. Let's talk about the men. Kentucky win, Old Dominion win, good form heading into the last regular season match at home against South Carolina.
So UCF men, I think they're starting to get they're starting to find their groove, especially late in the season where their schedule has kind of eased up a little bit. Hopefully, Coach Calabrese, he can find that momentum and just keep going and keep working with this team, especially because we've seen many of these guys and how talented they really are, especially last season and how well they did. So this season has been kind of a rough start and kind of disappointing also. But at least now they have that good form, back-to-back wins, and they just got to keep going, keep climbing, and then hopefully they can make it to the postseason as well.
I think a lot of that poor form that we saw could be attributed to the injuries we saw to Luca Dorado,
Absolutely.
To the injury we saw to first-choice keeper Juan V. Munoz, who, of course, Shane Wright, our very own Shane Wright, props to him. He stepped in, did an incredible job. Both of those first-choice players are back now for UCF, and I think you're right. I think we'll see a little push towards the end and towards the playoffs. So that about wraps it up for segment 2. That was fun talking about soccer, not just from here, but from everywhere else as well. So stay tuned, though, because segment 3, as always, will be looking at what our Nona boys and girls did, as well as looking ahead to a very important week.
Something new, something fresh, yeah, I'm super obsessed. Let me know when you done messing. A little that, a little this, then you put it to the test. It's all in the expression. It's a mood, it's a vibe, it's a state of mind. And now I want it more. It's a mood, it's a vibe, it's a state of mind. Okay, you got the floor. It's looking good. I kinda like that. Good.
right, we are back for the last part of episode 2. Patrick, I hope you've enjoyed it so far. It's your first time on the show, so let's keep it rolling. First, let's talk about the USL Academy season ending. Patrick, do you want to talk about their last game a little bit? How it went?
Yeah, so our Nona boys faced off against Miami AC. Unfortunately, they did lose 2-1, but an overall difficult but a learning season for these group of boys. Of course, they were on the older end of the youth setup, so some of them are still probably looking to find their professional setup and hopes, because at this age group, it's kind of clinical that you have to succeed because, under 20s, under 21s, under 22s, from there, it's like that's where you really start to find your groove, whether you're made of that professional material or not. And the conference that they were playing, the division that they were playing in, a lot of these teams have professional USL status teams, whether it's USL 2, 1, or Championship.
Right.
So you're already playing against really nice academy teams that have that first division, not first division, but that first team standing. So we kind of go back to the podcast episode with Fabio and Orlando City Academy director.
Javi Carrillo?
Yes.
Yes.
And you listen to what they talk about in terms of what it's like to develop a player and how to create them and mold them into that professional mindset, right? So these players have already gone through that, and just the insight that we now have, if you watch that episode, by the way.
Of course.
It just gives a really nice insight to what these kids deal with, how hard they practice, how hard they train. So despite finishing, I believe, 6th in the standings for their respective division, it's still something that they should be proud of because it was a hard division. A lot of talented players from so many different teams. Mm-hmm. Everything that you want the competition. That's what they said in that podcast. You want the competition. You want to play against the best players. You want to have the best players on your team because that's the only way you're going to grow. So at the end of the season, all we can do, clap, support these boys because they did. I couldn't do that personally. Yeah. I'm not fit. So, respect to them. They gave it all their all this season, and we can only wait to see what comes for them.
Absolutely. And looking at the results, they were able to beat Swan City, a team that actually the USL 2 boys used to play in USL 2. They beat them home and away, as well as a 2-1 victory away at Miami AC. And like you said, Miami FC, a USL championship team, we see the movement going on in Miami. Loads of clubs now popping up in that area. And, to just narrowly lose 2-1 at home, that is something you can take lots of positives from. And like you said, heading into the new USL Academy season. So as we were saying, lots of positives to take from USLA. How about UPSL? Of course, their previous game, winning 3-2 away at Atletico Orlando. Away games are never easy. 3-2 especially. Close match. Got the 3 points. They're now 4-1 on the season. Yeah,
so UPSL, a bit of a step up from USLA. So these boys also very talented, very skilled. 4 wins, 1 loss on the season, 13 goals scored. 5 of those came from one game, 5-2 against Marlex a couple weeks ago. They're finding their form. They have wonderful form. Their goal scoring is not letting up. I think these boys are doing a really good job as well.
Absolutely, and again, lots of positives to take. These are competitive games, and I wanted to go back to what when you touched on the interview with Javi Carrillo. It's like you'd rather almost have that learning experience, lose some games 2-1, 2-0, instead of just steamrolling our position 14-0, right? Because that's what we see a lot of times in youth soccer. What's your take on that? Would you rather, just have easy games or have a competitive schedule? I personally think, before I throw it to you, a competitive schedule kind of toughens you up a little bit and shows what you're made of.
Absolutely, because not only for the players, but for the coaching staff as well. Everybody involved in the club, they'll realize what it takes to compete at such a high level. So you want to play against the best players all the time. Even if you have the inkling that you might get thrashed one game, those are the challenges you have to take on, because in a professional setting, no matter where you land in the world, there's always going to be those games where you're going to have a little bit of doubt and you're going to be a little bit scared, whether it's a draw against a higher division team,
right,
or whoever it may be. You need to be prepared for those games. So having these kinds of competitive games that are just back and forth and you're just uncertain of the end result, that's the best kind of setting that you want to be in, because it molds you and makes you stronger, so you know what to expect in those high stakes games.
That's ultimately what we're here for, right? You know, those learning experiences, those learning curves. So we talked about USLA, UPSL. Let's look at the youth setup for this past weekend. Of course, one of the standout results, 2015 Black Boys, coached by Coach Seul. We've seen them last episode in the little feature we did of the FKK Alliance Cup. 6-4. Not a score you see every day, a 10-goal thriller against FD. And there's a little hidden significance behind that because, of course, in that very FKK Cup, they lost 3-2 to them. So, lessons learned, I would say. 6-4.
Absolutely. And, of course, this is youth soccer. So, but, I mean, it's still a result that maybe you don't want to let up 4 goals. You know,
but if you can score 6.
But if you can score 6. But, again, it's just a matter of maybe tweaking the defensive line a little bit, just so you don't hemorrhage goals at times. But again, as long as you come away with the result, I suppose that's all that matters at the end.
That's all that matters.
But that's something that the kids can learn on, can learn and focus on. Okay, how do we prevent the opposition from scoring 4? Why don't we reduce it down to 1 or 2 or none at all, you know? But again, these boys, they're learning. They have so much time to really master this aspect of the game. And the coach as well.
Absolutely. You know, and the amount of fun that they have is just that's primarily the focus.
Especially at that age.
Yes.
You know, that's what we're here for. It's just for fun, you know. And then once they get into that, you know, 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old mindset, it's when things really take a level or 2 up.
Step up.
But for now, let's let them enjoy the game. I won't be too harsh on them.
6-4. So, a very fun weekend of soccer action in Nona. All those games were at Heroes Community Park. Let's look ahead at what's to come this week, though, because we have very important things to cover. None less so than on October 30th, the Nona 5K run at Austin Tyndall Park. It's a yearly tradition at the club for Pinktober to celebrate what important and, you know, just crucial and vital this tradition has become to the club.
Absolutely, and it builds a sense of community, and ultimately that's what this club is here for. When you sat down and spoke with Fabio, he listed off a whole bunch of reasons why he created this wonderful club in the first place. I'm blessed to be here because of Fabio and this club, so it definitely creates a sense of community for everybody around the area, and that was the main goal, the main vision, to bring everybody together, bring the youth together, enjoy the games together. And these kinds of events, they're for fun, and everybody shows out and enjoys and has a good time.
And it's all for a great cause, too.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing. Pinktober, again, it's something that's really grown. I don't even think anyone at the club would have envisioned it in the fabric of the club, you know? So the 5K run at 5:30 at Austin Tyndall, and then we have the Moms game, which is always it's a new thing that they came up with actually last year. We will continue that tradition as well. Loads of great content to come from that, so stay tuned. And then the 8-year anniversary of Nona Soccer Academy.
Absolutely.
Nona turns 8 years old on November 1st, so lots of things to look forward to.
Absolutely, especially touching on the anniversary.
Yeah.
There's just so many new clubs forming each and every day. Every year you see hundreds of new clubs pop up out of nowhere, and it's because this sport in this country is growing at a rate that we haven't seen before, and that's what we want to see. So 8 years, wonderful achievement. Let's go for 10.
Let's go for 10, 15, more.
We'll hopefully, I'm sure NONA FC will look to be a staple in the community for years, decades to come.
And I think it's a testament to the great work that's happening here, because not all clubs reach 8 years, never mind 5 even, or 4. So lots of great things happening locally in the Lake Nona community. But Patrick, that about wraps up the second episode of the Nona Sports Show. I want to thank you for coming on. I know this is not the last, but the first of many. How did you feel? Your first on-air debut at the Nona Sports Show.
I love this. This is so much fun. Again, I have to be thankful for this team for allowing me to be here with you today in this in this wonderful studio that we have set up for
Absolutely.
this. And I absolutely look forward to being here with you more.
Well, I look forward to having many more soccer chats with you, but that is all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Thank you to UCF Hitting the Field as well. We have a bunch of support from everyone there as well, so I think we should also shout them out. But from Patrick, from myself, it's see you next time, where we will be covering the 5K run and much more here on the Nona Sports Show. Take care.